For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:06. Welcome to today's Entrepreneur, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, along with FL Fuller Landau's Josh Miller. Good evening, Josh.
Hello, Dan.
And tonight on the program, I know you're a big tattoo guy. You've got a whole sleeve.
Nobody can see them. Nobody can see
exactly.
them. I can see them.
It's your secret.
Close people can see them. If you have to look really closely, maybe under white light, but no, you can't see them.
Yeah, no, it's a big secret that I just revealed from your biker days, and we're going to talk tattoos and the tattoo business and the tattoo removal business tonight on the program, and we'll have Robin Labrèche and Dr. Maryam Majdi of the Azalea Laser Clinic on the program in just a little bit. But as usual, here on today's Entrepreneur, our second to last show of the year, we're going to talk about some entrepreneurial news, and we'll get to that in a second, but I figured I would just bring this up with you because everyone seems to be sick around me lately and around the office and here at CJAD. And
but nobody in this room.
No, I think I'm better now. I'm pretty sure I'm better, but I was out for the better part of 2 weeks, and I for some reason I didn't get the flu shot. But I was thinking, employers, even small to medium-sized business owners like myself, I mean, should we be giving the flu shot to all employees? Is this a good idea?
Well, the question is, if you have a history or if you think your employees are going to get sick and be off and not be very productive, well, then it's probably worth, a few bucks per employee or however much it is. I think, $30-$40 or so per employee to get the shot. You have the nurse come in and call it preventative medicine, call it insurance, call it whatever you want. But if it prevents your employees from getting additional sick days and you can get more out of them and they can produce more, then certainly well worth it.
Sure, if it only costs, $30-$40, even if it's $100 a person, still you could save if someone is absent for 2-3 days during the week.
It could be very well worth it.
Tell me about your recent trip to Hong Kong. This is your annual trip. You go every year. Why Hong Kong, and why do you maintain such a constant presence there?
Ni hao, Dan. And I would break into my finest Cantonese, but neither you or any other Chinese person would understand it. So we're just going to leave that off the table for now. It's actually quite simple. As you know, out of all the shows that we've been doing and the guests that we have, the world gets smaller and smaller. And this market that is out there, certainly over many decades, people have been buying from China. Whether it's through Hong Kong or direct. But certainly in the past 5 years, I would say even more 10 years, China is just becoming a huge consumer market. Hong Kong as well, of course, that it's part of China, because Hong Kong and China are really one country. It's just two systems. Since Hong Kong was handed back over to China from the UK in 1997, and it's become such a vast market for people to export to and not just import from. There are so many opportunities that I find it hugely important and hugely relevant to stay in contact and go there once or twice a year and help businesses and help companies and entrepreneurs make the most of this shrinking world.
There are a lot of new customers now in China and an emerging middle class. Do you find that this is a bit underrated when it comes to China? Business people look at China as a way to produce goods, perhaps cheaply, but it's becoming a lot more than that.
Well, first of all, it's becoming a little bit less cheap to do so, but it's still cheap by comparison. But that's what I was saying. It's such a vast consumer market now that it's staggering what the possibilities are, and they're searching these middle class mainland Chinese are looking to spend their money, and they're looking to spend their money on exotic items, on different items, not always on local items. So products that come in from Canada, North America, wherever outside of China, they'll pay a bit of a premium for. So you just have to know how to market it, because marketing to the Chinese culture is not marketing to a North American culture. It's not marketing to a European culture. It's very specific, and it's very brand driven. So that's what you have to get out there, and there's hoops to jump through, and understanding the culture is really big before you go to any market in any event.
Over to Toronto now, and you took interest in this restaurateur who was planning to export his Italian cuisine to the U.S.
Well, I think it's just a story. It's a story about a Canadian entrepreneur, and he's struggled at the beginning, as most restaurateurs do, but he ultimately built, and he knows to build brands, a brand of a restaurant, because one restaurant in and of itself might, break even, make a few bucks, do super well if you get the right location and the right crowd. But the reality is, if you can build a brand and expand it and have multiple locations, your economies of scale are huge, and you can bring it to different markets where they're really looking out. So he took this real Italian-based restaurant brand, which when you go south of the border, how many authentic Italian restaurant places do you know? It's very Americanized typically.
Olive Garden?
Olive Garden. Oh, very authentic. Very authentic, olive-y, American-y, all-you-can-eat salad bar-y. But the authentic, they put, Americanized Italian food is putting sugar in your tomato sauce. Well, no, there's more natural ingredients, but what was really very interesting is he was really persistent, and he really had to, like every other business, you have to educate your customer. And I know we're going to hear that a little later from the Azalea Laser Clinic. Educating your customer is big. So whatever you do, and in this case, in this authentic Italian restaurant, he also had to educate the customer, and educate it to the point of, hey, it's not Americanized, it's not sweet, it's really authentic, it's natural, it might be different tastes, but it's really much better for you. So it took a long time to set up, but now that he's set up and people understand the brand, it's much easier to start and get going a few months in newer locations.
A couple of stories about social entrepreneurship. Finally, we have an environmentally friendly solution to the one-time disposable coffee thingies, the K-Cup. So now we have the G-Cup.
The G-Cup, and it's not a G-string cup, and it's not a G-anything cup, but certainly it's a G-Cup that is biodegradable. And it's something that, and you see this, and I've been hearing this for many, you go to entrepreneur sessions and you go to kind of these pitch competitions and all that, and you have so many more young entrepreneurs that are going after the socially responsible ideas. This being a perfect example. How many K-Cups are out there? I mean, there's reporting that the number of K-Cups that have been sold over time could circumference the equator of the Earth 10, 11, 12 times over. That's how much coffee people are drinking out of these K-Cups. So the damage to the environment that people throw out is astounding. All it takes is one person to have an idea saying, hey, what can we make that's biodegradable? And it's socially responsible. It's, people are looking for that. So they might even pay a small premium for it. And I think it's a great idea. So social responsibility, social entrepreneurship is really big.
Another story about just that. Paul and Sophia Grinvalds, they deserve a shout out, a couple of recent McGill University graduates, and they decided to start a business which would make money, but also help young girls in Africa. Tell us about that.
There was a problem in Africa where, how can I put this delicately? The women in Africa have trouble with, cleaning up their menstrual cycles, and they were using newspapers and whatever they could find, and they were so embarrassed once a month they would actually skip school for several days, and they would be that much far behind. So this couple who, where they were traveling, said, you know what, it's just not fair. They're missing out on a real education. So they invented these AfriPads. And it's recyclable, and not only did they invent this, but they're also manufacturing it in Africa and employing 100, 150 people, 2/3 of which are women. So they're giving back to the community. They're finding a solution for the future of that region in Africa, and it's something that took off. Now it took an investor, took a leap of faith, but that socially responsible entrepreneur really did the best that they could for that part of the world.
So social entrepreneurship is getting to be a buzzword, especially after the Mark Zuckerberg announcement last week as well. So it's not so much giving to charity or writing a check, but creating businesses and organizations that include a social mission in their day-to-day operations.
It's making the world a better place in a business format. And it's totally doable, and people do it every day, as we hear. And it's something that once it catches on, it can spread like wildfire. It can be your biggest marketing aspect.
Today's Entrepreneur on CJAD 800. Coming up, we'll talk tattoos with Dr. Maryam Majdi and Robin Labrèche of the Azalea Laser Clinic. They are on the way.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:20 on today's Entrepreneur, inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and FL Fuller Landau's Josh Miller with you. And our guests this evening are Robin Labrèche and Dr. Maryam Majdi of Azalea Laser Clinic. Robin and Dr. Maryam, welcome to CJAD.
Hi,
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for joining us. So first, a pretty basic question. Tell us about yourselves and tell us about the business, Azalea Laser Clinic.
Go for it.
Well, we at Azalea Laser Clinic, our primary focus is on laser tattoo removal, but we also do other pigment-related treatments such as removal of beauty marks, birthmarks, freckles, scars if they're darker in pigment, stretch marks if they're darker in pigment. So virtually anything that's darker in pigment,
We're in the pigment removal business.
That's right.
Not the pig removal business.
The pigment removal business.
So now lasers in the name. So I gather it's a pretty sophisticated machine and equipment that you're using.
That is correct, actually. We are the first in Quebec to introduce this technology. We are between Barrie, Ontario and Halifax. We are, again, the first ones. We are the only ones with this type of technology. We have the Quanta Q plus C, and it is the only laser worldwide that can target virtually any color on the spectrum, on the color spectrum, safely and effectively.
Now, how did you get into this business?
Well, being a tattoo artist myself, I've seen a lot of really badly done tattoos, and over the course of my career, people who have bad tattoos, they tend to want cover-ups to cover it up with a different tattoo. With my style being a soft black and gray realism, I'm limited in what I can actually cover up. So I would send a lot of people to go and get laser removal done. And I never had a specific place to send people, but when I was seeing what some of my clients were coming back with, the results of just horrible damage to their skin, I decided that to try and find a better solution. So I turned to Maryam, being a PhD and being good at research. I asked her to do some research and find the best laser so that I could refer people to. So after a long road of research,
almost a year of
research, she reading all kinds of papers and testimonials. She found she comes to me and she says one day, I found the perfect laser. I said, excellent. Where am I sending people? And she said, Ontario or Halifax. So that's when we got in touch with the company, and one thing led to the other, and we ended up bringing the laser in ourselves.
So this is a brand new piece of equipment that is new in the area. It's new in Canada. It's new in Quebec. How much did you test it before you actually jumped in and bought it?
Well, this isn't new technology per se. This is absolutely new technology here in Canada, just because it took some time for it to get approved by Health Canada. But that being said, I mean, they have hundreds of these all across the U.S. They have even more than that all across Europe. So this is an Italian-made laser, but I mean, the evidence is there in terms of longitudinal studies, in terms of long-term effects on a variety of different, whether it's more for pigment-related treatments, or for tattoo removal. We know along the spectrum how clients tend to respond to it. So that's what kind of piqued my interest in the first place, because I knew that this wasn't just some new technology that just came out and hadn't been tested very much, but it sounded very interesting, and we wanted to go with something that was absolutely going to be the safest and provide the best results all around.
And it sounds, I mean, kind of like, businesses that are going vertical, the tattoo creator, the artist, and the tattoo removal.
I giveth, she taketh away.
No comment there about the sexes. Anyhow, when we come back, it'll be really interesting to hear about kind of the first steps as you open your front doors and how you get people to walk in the door. And as we mentioned earlier in the program, educating your customer when we come back after the break.
We're talking tattoos and tattoo removal with Robin Labrèche and Dr. Maryam Majdi of the Azalea Laser Clinic here on Today's Entrepreneur at 724.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
727 on Today's Entrepreneur. Joining us this evening is Robin Labrèche and Dr. Maryam Majdi of the Azalea Laser Clinic and Dahlia, which is the tattoo shop. So, guys, these are two businesses that are complementary in a way. And Dr. Maryam, you go back and forth between the two.
That's right. I do, since both of them are in separate locations. And we wanted to make sure that we kept the clinic more clinical and the tattoo shop, where the creative juices and the artistic juices are flowing. So we definitely wanted to keep them separated. So during the day, since I manage the tattoo shop as well, I'm literally running back and forth all the time.
It's actually funny, when we were renovating for Azalea, the two businesses in between us, for months, they were wondering, what's going on? Why do they keep running back and forth? And then finally, when we told them, oh, by the way, we're opening up next door as well, then they were like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, as you said, you also remove, it's skin and pigment treatment. So it's not all the customers from a tattoo artist that would come into your shop.
That's right.
So I guess you want to have a slightly different look.
Exactly. Because, I mean, we do tend to get some some more conservative people that don't have tattoos that are just coming in for treatments for various, pigment related treatments. So we don't want them to have to be intimidated by the tattoo kind of shop aspect, and we want them to feel as comfortable as possible with their treatments.
So you have this new location. You're ready to open your door. What do you do? I mean, you already have an instant customer base. What's your first steps? Are you worried when you open this door? I mean, you have a machine that you paid for and you got to pay for it.
That we paid a lot for.
But we were excited. I mean, it took us so long to open our doors, but we were just so confident about this and so excited about the approach that we decided to take, because we decided to take an education-based approach. So during my consultations, my goal is to educate every single person that walks through that door. So whether they choose to go with our treatments or not, I want them to understand what's actually happening to their skin, not just on a just a basic level, but to actually have a better understanding. That's obviously optional. I don't force every single person to go through
to
that.
Listen to you.
But most people go for
Except
it.
Robin.
Yeah. Well, actually,
she doesn't force me to.
Believe it or
I
not,
do it out of my own free will.
I give people the option, and I would say about 95% of the time, unless someone's in a rush, most people want to know more, because most places you go to, they'll just give you false promises. They'll just throw a number at you and tell you how many sessions it's going to be, but they'll leave the client wondering what's actually happening to their skin. This isn't some sort of magical process. So I really, obviously, I like to nerd out on it and, give them a little bit more of an in-depth kind of understanding of what's happening to them, and they really appreciate it.
And there's no doubt that's part of what differentiates you. And when you're talking about marketing and having the name out there, you got to look at areas that differentiate you. So when we come back from the break, we'll kind of dabble a little more into the marketing and how you get your name out there, other than the few doors down from you, and we'll see what's worked for you.
Robin Labrèche and Dr. Maryam Majdi of the Azalea Laser Clinic are guests this evening on Today's Entrepreneur at 7:30.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:36. Welcome back to Today's Entrepreneur, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. And my name is Dan Delmar, along with FL Fuller Landau's Josh Miller. And Josh, our guest this evening, Robin Labrèche and Dr. Maryam Majdi of the Azalea Laser Clinic and Dahlia, which is the complimentary business, the tattoo parlor. So you can get your tattoos and then get them removed a few doors down. It was 3 doors down, right?
But you don't get those removed.
Down.
You don't get those removed. It's the ones from other tattoo artists.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but we're talking about marketing. We're talking about, this is, as you said earlier in the program, this is not new equipment to the world, but new equipment in this region, and the latest technology. How do you get the name out there? How do people get to know to come to you now instead of having to go to Ontario or wherever else they have to go?
Well, we had an advantage, the fact that I've been in this business for almost 15 years, so I have a lot of contacts in the tattoo industry. So once we knew we were actually opening, anytime that I had someone, a client that needed some, or was even just asking about any other tattoo, I would always let them know, oh, by the way, we're going to be affiliated. I never told them we were opening it originally, just in case. We're going to be affiliated with a laser clinic. They're going to have this laser, tell them a bit about it. And so before we even opened, we had a list of about 50 people that were interested. That, along with what we did is we made a little information package and sent it to all the tattoo shops in the industry. Not in the industry, in the area.
Was it well received?
Yes and no. I think
there were some that actually were really, really interested in it, and obviously, because they want to be able to do cover-ups on good skin that's not damaged. So they decided, they wanted to send some people over, and now we have quite a few actually from a variety of different tattoo shops.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you'll have some tattoo shops that were completely reluctant to even giving it a try, because they have their own laser equipment. So obviously they wouldn't want to take that chance, even though it would obviously mean that they would have better skin to work with for their own tattoo artists. But
so in addition to kind of sending out these packages, what about online? Are you doing anything, or what'd you do online?
We went with a Google ad. That's probably been our biggest source of new clients. Google ads, and I don't want to sound like an infomercial for them, but they are really good. They're very helpful. They're very informative. If you want to call them up, they actually insisted. They kept calling us saying, we'd like to set up a free meeting with you to discuss your campaign, optimize it, and yeah, it was really great. I definitely recommend Google ads.
We were also featured on YoLBuzz too back in May, so that helped us out a lot too. That was just it was really helpful to get the name out there. So, and of course, referrals that have now been flooding
Word of
in.
mouth is
Yeah,
now every single person that gets it done
Yeah.
is so amazed with what we're doing and the results that even friends of theirs that they would have never even thought, like, oh, hey, don't you have that tattoo that you really didn't like anymore?
Yeah.
Check them out.
So is there competition then? I mean, you said this is the only piece of equipment like this in the area, but there are other people removing tattoos. So do you feel you have competition? Do you feel it maybe create competition?
There's competition in every business, right? And I mean, it really depends because there are all different sorts of clients. So you're going to have that person that either wants to only pay $30 in someone's basement and he's going to do it. Then, I mean, they're going to destroy his skin in the process, but there are definitely those people out there. So, and
or
even
they fall for false promises, or they're just, a friend tells them to go somewhere, so they just go ahead instead of really kind of learning the facts about where they need to be going. So, yeah, in that regard, there's definitely competition, so to speak. But as far as the actual equipment goes, there's none that even, compares.
So
Yeah.
if the market is missing this type of product and service, how do you go about pricing it from the get-go? If you're not, if you have competitors that are pricing it, but with inferior equipment, as you say, then how do you price it for something, as you said, Robin, was a really expensive piece of equipment?
We're very competitively priced, actually. So, I mean,
we're actually not the most expensive.
Yes, definitely.
Despite the price of our laser, despite the results and the technology, we are actually not the most expensive.
Nor are we the least expensive. So
Right.
we're competitive with other places that do offer laser tattoo removal, generally speaking. So less, obviously more expensive than someone that's going to offer it in their basement, but less expensive than some of the other places.
And
out
the
there.
company really set us up when they came to do our training and install the machine and everything. They gave us a basis of what we should do around. Obviously, they said do your research and see what people are charging around your area, because what someone's going to charge in Toronto versus here is obviously going to be different.
So by the color of the pigment, the size of the tattoo, the location on the body, does it all make a difference?
Not
For the effectiveness
really.
of the process, yes.
Yeah,
But for
The
the
price-
price,
the
no.
pricing,
Price is
no.
only
It's-
the size.
Yeah, it's just the square, the area, the tattooed area, sorry. So that's all that you're looking at. So not the size of a tattoo, that's irrelevant. It's how much of that area is actually tattooed that you consider it. So it might seem a lot larger.
So it is about the size in this case.
It is.
Yeah.
Size does matter.
I'm just saying what you said. I'm just the parrot. I'm just the parrot here. So when you guys are partners, correct?
Yes,
right.
we are.
Do you get along? What happens when you don't?
We always
Yes.
get along. No, we don't always get along, but we have an
Says one
understanding.
fiance to another.
Right, exactly. We have an understanding. The most important thing in any relationship, whether it be marriage, a business partnership, friendship, is respect. And if you have respect, then you can solve any dispute. Tempers can flare, but then once that temper, which doesn't happen with us, I'm saying in general, but once you calm down and realize, oh, wait a second, let's work this out.
Because we both basically have this understanding that we both want the same thing for our businesses. We want them to flourish. We want them to prosper. So keeping that in mind, I know if he's making a recommendation, I know it's for bettering our businesses and vice versa. So ultimately, if you look at it that way, then, we've got
And
great
right from the
synergy.
get-go, having a clear criteria of what areas, which person has a veto in that area. So anything scientific, anything to do with the budgeting is Mary. She gets the veto. Anything that has to do with the aesthetics of it, the artistic aspect of it, marketing, I usually get the veto for that. So
That's right.
So as you mentioned budgeting, and as you mentioned the equipment that is unique and a little pricey, you have to make this investment in your new business. How do you go about it? Did you go approach the banks? Did you have good luck there? Did you have to find investors elsewhere? What was the solution for you?
we had such a hard time.
We hit every obstacle along the way. But
Literally every obstacle because of Quebec being under French civil law. Most companies in Canada, in North America even, will not lend to people in Quebec. And when we originally spoke with the company there in Colorado, they were saying, the rep was saying, oh, don't worry about it. I have a company that I lend money to people. I lend large sums of money. Don't worry, you'll get approved, no problem. And then when we applied for it, no one wanted to approve. So then we ended up having to have a co-signer, and we were gonna have a co-signer. My grandmother, and then my grandfather actually graciously And very appreciatively,
very
if you're
grateful for
listening,
that.
ended up giving us the loan so we could get the machine. Everything else was all our savings for the renovations. We
put everything into this.
everything.
Basically.
Yeah, this is our.
Did you have to learn how to manage cash flow? At the outset, because you weren't sure kind of the timing and everything, or
Maryam's much
Yeah, I'm
better
very-
with cash than
yeah.
I am.
Well, especially with having Dahlia as well, that gave me a few years of practice. But yeah, it's tough. It's a new business. You gotta.
There's
every
always
penny counts.
hidden expenses.
Exactly.
Always. Whatever you budget for, times it by 1.5, and then you'll only be a few $1,000s under.
now as you look back, and just before we hit the 45 break, would you do it with the knowledge you have today? Would you do anything differently from when you opened, and whether
That's a good
it
question.
related to Azalea or even Dahlia for that matter?
Yes, self-leveling cement. If anyone is renovating, use self-leveling cement before you tile your floors.
And your management style, has that been the same since the beginning? Have you changed that, or you've pretty much been open? You dealt with your employees the same way?
No, we've changed it.
Yeah,
Definitely changed
it's definitely changed.
You want to?
It's just, you learn a lot of things along the way when you first start managing a business, and you have to just kind of evolve with it. So we've definitely learned a lot along the way.
And coming up, we'll have Ernie Furt. And talking about taxes, I take it, Josh?
Talking about taxes, absolutely. That is certainly his specialty. And there were some announcements today from the federal government.
Oh.
So we're going to kind of hear about that and how it's kind of got some pluses and minuses.
So tax partner Ernie Furt from Fuller Landau on the way on that. Plus, we'll have Robin and Maryam's one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur before the show is done. It's 7:45.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:50 on today's entrepreneur, inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and FL Fuller Landau's Josh Miller with you. And we'll have Robin and Maryam's one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur coming up in just a few minutes. But first, Ernie Furt is here, tax partner at Fuller Landau, Josh. And we had our new finance minister, Bill Morneau, making a bit of an announcement today.
A bit of an announcement, several announcements. There's been a lot of rumors going around, and what's been on tap or what's coming on tap. And I know, Ernie, you had the pleasure of listening to it all this afternoon. So do share with us so many positive things you learned.
Well, positive things depending on what perspective you have. Okay, because during the election campaign, Prime Minister Trudeau was announcing that he's going to make some changes and help the middle class a little bit, and and the rich will have to pay for the middle class tax cut. And effectively today, that's exactly what they did. So effective January 1 of 16, there'll be a middle class tax cut. Anybody earning between 45,000 odd to about 90,000 will receive a decrease of about 1.5%, exactly 1.5%, and that amounts to about $700. Okay, at the maximum. Mm-hmm. And anybody earning over 200K will be taxed. Will have a tax rate of 33% on any income in excess of $200,000. But don't forget, we have a graduated tax rate system, so we do benefit from that tax cut as well. Anybody who is in the over $200,000 bracket will benefit. So really, that change truly kicks in at around $217,000.
So it sounds like in Quebec, where the top marginal rate, everybody was happy to be slightly under 50 points, so 50%.
No longer.
In the top rate, which isn't everybody in Quebec. It's certainly in the minority, but those there that's about. But certainly in the middle class, it's going to affect a lot of people.
It'll affect a lot of people, but there's other things that can affect them too. And if they're smart and they plan properly, and they can save money. Still the utilization of an RRSP or even a tax-free savings account can help them better than a tax cut can help them.
And there's no doubt that for those that can kind of exercise some income splitting planning, now's the time to do that much more.
Well, anybody who's earning above that $217,000 can consider potentially accelerating some income into 15 as opposed to taking it into 16. You can save 4 points. So that's a choice that you make, and you have to discuss that choice with your accountant, whether you want to accelerate it or you don't. In addition, what they did is they rolled back the tax-free savings account total that you could put in. For 15, it is $10,000. But for 16, it'll go back to 5,500, and that'll be indexed. So, you don't really have to go rush out and put in your tax-free savings account money right now. You can put it in whenever you so choose. But that $10,000 for 15 is safe, and now you're working at 5,500.
So for this fiscal year, is this the last then that we'll have income splitting for Canadians that are not seniors?
I wouldn't say income splitting. Official income splitting, yes. Okay, in 15, because they're going to get rid of the family tax cut, which affected people who have kids and couples with kids. So they're going to get rid of that, and that was potentially up to a $2,000 savings. So in reality, when you look at these two things combined, the decrease at the middle level and the family tax cut removal, I don't know where you're going to come out at the end of the day. And there's going to be a budget that's going to be in April or earlier that's going to address other issues, the enhanced child tax benefit and removal of the other benefit, that they're not going to tax the child benefit. So there's a few other promises or threats, depending on what you want and what your perspective is, that are going to come forth in the new year.
More with on taxes with Ernie in just a moment, and we'll have Robin and Maryam's one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur. That's next.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:57 on today's entrepreneur. Ernie Furt is here, tax partner at Fuller Landau. And in a moment, we'll also have Robin Labrèche and Dr. Maryam Majdi's one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur. Ernie, any final thoughts on income splitting?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something. With respect to the income splitting, the pension split will still remain, because the government promised to continue that pension split, so that will not be changed. It's only the family tax cut that will be changed.
Okay. Now, were there any comments on the commercial side, on the business side of things today?
They didn't really comment much or at all on the business side, and they commented a little bit about deficits, and there was a lot of questions in the House as to, is there going to be, what are you going to do about that, and are with the $1.2 billion deficit, will the increase of tax rates on the higher income earners compensate for the decrease over here? I think it may. But you know what? The proof is in the pudding, and at the end of the day, we'll see what happens, and are going to change their stories like they always do.
And then of course, there's the Quebec side of it, that when they decide to come out with their commentary or their own budget, I guess we'll see how they follow suit.
Quebec won't necessarily come out with their own budget right now, but what you have to watch out for is they're very notorious for coming out with stuff like on December 21st or like the day before Easter. I've seen that before. They come up with announcements, so you got to watch out.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Ernie. And as we approach the last moment of our show, as we do every week, we'll look at Dr. Maryam and Robin and ask you each, what would be your one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur?
Well, my advice would definitely be to educate your clients. I'm a huge advocate of the education-based approach, and I find that it's very effective, and it's a very honest way of pursuing your business. And I mean, in a sense, if you're as open and honest as possible about your product with your client, then you're definitely going to build that trusting kind of relationship with them.
Transparency is huge.
Absolutely.
Robin?
Know your product. If you know what you're selling and you know it inside and out, then you should be able to sell it to anyone.
And I think that's great. And Dan, the takeaway, and we always see this often, but they have really delved into their service, delved into their product. They know it well. They just with the comment of education and teaching, going to their customer and saying, these are the ABCs through Zs, and making sure that there's a full understanding and obviously showing the full commitment on their part. That is certainly huge from a growing your business from a marketing standpoint, and hence the word of mouth will continue. So that was absolutely great. Thanks very much.
Robin Labrèche and Dr. Maryam Majdi of Azalea Laser Clinic. Best of luck, guys, and thanks for stopping by.
Thanks so much for having us. Thank you. Thanks
to Ernie Furt as well from Fuller Landau. Back next Monday night at 7 here on CJAD for our last episode of the year. Thanks, Josh. And The Exchange with Barry Wiseman is next.